I feel like a lot of women are really nervous to travel. I actually just went on an epic road trip with my son. We drove all the way from San Diego to Colorado. So we went all the way through Nevada, Arizona to Rocky Mountain National Park. We went through Denver and then we came all the way back. And I had a lot of moms who would say, how do you find the courage? Like, I really want to take my kid on a road trip, but I'm just like way too nervous. It just made me really sad how many women and just single moms in general really have that desire to travel or take their kids out on adventures, but they are just honestly scared or they just don't know how. Probably watching this because you are either planning a road trip or you want to get inspired to plan a road trip, and I am going to give you my top 10 tips for doing so. So the very first one is to create an itinerary. This sounds so basic, but it's seriously so helpful. I have not always done this while traveling, and it has been a game changer. So basically this last time when I was planning my trip, I picked the one spot that I knew I really wanted to travel to, which was Rocky Mountain National Park. And I opened up Google Maps and I put from San Diego to Rocky Mountain National Park. And in there, you can actually see the destination and the route to get there. And basically what I did was I picked all of the really cool areas that I had like heard about or heard from TikTok. And I pretty much just like sought out those areas that were on the way. And what I did was I put them all into my itinerary. So I pulled up my notes app on my phone and I would put it very organized, like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. By the way, you can purchase that itinerary. I'll link it below in the description. And it was so helpful because as we were going through the road trip, I was able to just pull out my phone every day. I didn't have to do the extra work to go through my email and like try and remember where we were headed. It was all laid out, which was so nice, especially for those mornings that we were up at like 5 a.m. The other really cool part about this is I had all my reservation numbers in there, the drive time. So even with my son, he was able to open up the notes and be like, okay, what are we doing today? And that kind of gave him a little bit of some ease because as a kid, they have no idea where they're going next. And kids really just like to know what's happening next. So I feel like that was really helpful for him. This is also when you're gonna wanna make reservations for everything. We live in a time now where you have to make reservations for even some hikes that you go on for certain national parks, not all of them. Once you get all of the places that you're gonna visit, make sure that you have all your reservations. Here's a really cool tip too. If you are trying to find a campsite somewhere and all of the campsites are sold out, you can actually pay for this website called Camp Scanner. This is what I did. I really wanted to camp in Rocky Mountain National Park. That was really important to me, but there were no reservations available. So I paid for this Camp Scanner website, and basically what it does is it just scans all of the websites like every 15 minutes and tells you if there's a cancellation. You can like hop online really quick and make a reservation where that cancellation was, and that actually worked out for us. I found 3 camp spots from that website. Tip number 2 is using search engines like TikTok instead of just Google when you're researching places and just trying to get a feel for them. I have found that TikTok gives the most relatable, honest review of places, whether it's a campsite or a national park, a theme park. People are just giving their honest reviews, where if you go on Google, you're gonna find ads or you're gonna find biased reviews on websites. So using TikTok as a search engine was actually incredible for planning my trip, and I highly recommend it. Number 3, sharing your itinerary with your family and friends as well as your location. So this is gonna give you a lot of ease, just knowing that someone knows exactly where you are every single day at any given time of the day. They kind of have an idea of like where you're headed and where you're going. In the event of an emergency, it would be really helpful for friends and family to have your location. My 4th tip is to make sure that you have all of the protection that makes you feel safe for any given location that you're gonna be in. We camped a few nights of our road trip, so part of what made me feel safer was a GUN, which that's not for everyone, but that's totally fine. It made me feel more safe having that in my tent, just in case, I don't know, even like a bear or anything like that came around. I wanted to be able to protect myself. And also when we were doing like deep wilderness hikes, it just made me feel safer. Birdie keychain, so I'll also put that in the description of this video. It is basically a device where you just pull it and it makes like the loudest noise, which I really feel like would be a deterrent for not only a human, but also an animal. I had one on my backpack as well as Adrian's backpack. I also told him, like, in the event of, let's say, if we're hiking and I were to pass out or something were to happen, very unlikely, he would pull that and hopefully that would make a noise loud enough for someone to recognize that maybe someone was injured or hurt or that there was an emergency. We also carried, I had a taser in my car. I always have that in my car. And then we also had pocket knives. They just made us feel a little bit safer. My son really enjoyed playing with the pocket knife while we were camping. He was just like carving wooden sticks and stuff like that. Number 5, listen to your gut. If you booked a hotel or you planned something and you get there and it feels extremely sketchy or odd, or you just feel really uncomfortable, like it's not what you imagined it to be, you are allowed to change your mind or you are allowed to leave. For example, do not make this mistake. Please learn from my mistake. I booked a hotel. It was like $65, which I guess I should have known at how cheap it was. The reviews on the website were very different from how it actually looked. I showed up to this hotel and the moment that we got in there, it was so uncomfortable. The springs were sticking through the mattress. You couldn't even like lock the door. It was broken. The lamps were broken, mold on the walls. It was just like unacceptable. And Adrian and I walked in there and we were so tired and I was so ready to just like rest, but we looked at each other and we were like, I just knew, he knew, I knew, we were like, we're not staying here. I told the lady, like, look, I'm gonna cancel this, it's unacceptable. And we went to another place that did end up being more expensive, but it was well worth it. I'm really glad that we left. There were these guys that were like staring at me as we were like walking in the door that just made me so uncomfortable. That tip is just like, listen to your gut, be flexible and be willing to change your itinerary if you have to. So my 6th tip kind of goes along with number 5 as well. Like, have a heightened awareness, whether that's like listening to your gut and really just like paying attention to people. Be aware of how much information you disclose to strangers. Met a lot of really wonderful people on the road, and honestly, I wholeheartedly believe that most people are good, but I was also aware of the information that I was disclosing with them. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, where are you headed to next? Where are you staying? Like, stuff like that. And yes, we were talking with like women and men, and I was just aware of not giving away too much information. Like, I would just give very broad ideas of like where we were going. I would never give an actual specific location. That includes like online. I was very careful. I waited about 2 or 3 days to actually share the locations of where I was way after we had gone, just to make sure that me and my boy were safe. Number 7 is huge, setting expectations. Before we left on our trip, especially if you are bringing kids with you, I think that this is huge. Kids like to have a sense of security and safety. They like to know what's happening next, especially if you have a son like mine or a child like mine. He is very like schedule oriented. It makes him feel safer, more secure, and happier if he just like knows the deal. It's a little too much. I'm like, dude, chill out. You don't need to know like every detail or like how long we're gonna be at every place. Just in general, I know that he really appreciates that. Before we left, I made sure to share our itinerary with him a lot, so he knew what we were doing. He knew how often we were going to be driving. I also got him excited. Like, I would show him, we went to this really cool theme park, and I made sure to like show him TikToks of the rides, and we were going to go water rafting. So I kind of kept like building up this like anticipation for these really fun things, and I feel like that was really helpful. But the biggest expectation that I set, so grateful for, that was like the best thing I did for this trip, telling him that he could not bring his iPad. I know some of you are gonna be like, how did you do that? Kids need boredom. And I promise you, when they are put in a position with nothing, they just end up finding ways to entertain themselves. It's crazy just watching my son entertain himself with like close to nothing in the car, and it was so cool. Like, it made me feel so much better. It opened up time for us to have deeper, more conversations, better conversations than we would have if he had headphones on and was like glued into his iPad. I just felt like he was really invested in the trip with me. He was able to see the landscape when we were driving of all the different places. And I just think like setting that expectation at least a week before, telling him like, you're not gonna have an iPad, like prepare for that. Which is sad that we're in a place where we really have to like prepare someone for that. I think setting that expectation early helped so much. Okay, number 9 is just like preparing entertainment before you go on your trip, whether that's downloading music from Spotify, downloading podcasts, bringing board games, making sure that you have like a playlist and everything. There's not gonna be service a lot. You're just driving through really remote areas, especially if you're in like a national park or you're camping, like you're just not gonna have service. Just making sure that you have different genres of music, because I'm telling you, you will get so sick of one genre. Making sure that you do that, and then also like download a series of podcasts. I love Nick Viall. I'm like obsessed with his podcast. I love it so much. I downloaded like, I don't know, 20 episodes, and it was seriously the best. It makes time feel like it's going by so much faster when you're driving. We also brought the National Parks Monopoly and we played that while we were camping, and that was so much fun. If you are camping, do not forget to bring board games, especially if you are camping with your kids. They will love it. And my 10th tip is to just have fun. You going on a road trip is one of the best things that you can do for your heart, for your mind, for your soul, for your kid. That disconnected time where you can just bond is seriously so priceless. I feel like when we're at home, we just can't tap into that same space and time like we can when we're disconnected and we're on a trip enjoying it together. It can be stressful, but seriously, it's something that you are gonna be looking back on for years and years, and your kid is just gonna be so grateful for it, especially when they're older. They'll be like, oh my gosh, my mom was such a badass. She took me on all these road trips, we would camp, etc., etc. You're gonna have so much fun. If you need someone to encourage you to just do it. Do it. I am telling you, you will look back and feel so happy that you went. Your kids are going to be so happy. It is so fulfilling for your mind, body, and soul, and I am like already ready to plan my next one. I hope that these tips were super helpful, whether you're traveling with your kids or you're traveling on your own. It's so beyond worth it. And if you need someone to motivate you to go on a road trip, I am telling you, it is time to go. I'm like already planning my next one. I hope that this helps. If there's anything that I missed, just go ahead and add it in the comments. I know that there's so much involved in planning a road trip, and I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff. And good luck planning your trip. You got this.